Hi, welcome to Consciously Healthy. I'm Laura.
And I'm still Claire.
Still Claire or moving Claire?
Moving Claire. Well, we say that a lot.
Oh yeah, that is true. That is true. Maybe we should get a different start to these.
What, a new name?
No, I think embrace our names. I don't want to get
Just a new
name.
start. Okay,
Yeah.
Well, if you have any suggestions on how you would like us to start our Consciously Healthy podcasts, because clearly that's as far as our creativity goes on starts. So please do let us know.
What are we talking about today?
We are talking about, well, I've just come back from a really big adventure, and I had a bit of a realisation, because for a long time I've really not resonated with the fact that I'm a wellness practitioner, because I'm a wellness practitioner, a health practitioner. And yes, in my clinic, I work with nutrition, I work with counselling techniques, and I work with some kinesiology and a whole host of other therapies all thrown in for good measure. So I am a health practitioner, but there's something about it that didn't feel right, because actually, we make so many recommendations on different lifestyle things like, chemical toxicity and
Tantric practices.
Yeah. And just everything, really.
Coaching and... Yeah.
Even down to in one of our online programs, we actually had a bit about colours to wear and style, and so it's for me it's just never really sort of summed up what it is that I do. And I kind of came up with this term that I'm a whole health practitioner, and what we mean by that is it's something that's actually it's kind of it's become quite a big issue for us both, is that, we see a lot of people who, particularly when we had our wellness centre, we knew a lot of people who were kind of going, I'm very healthy. Oh, great, fantastic. Love it when people embrace their health. That's fantastic. I do yoga, I drink my green juice. Okay. And then actually when we started to work with people, we found out that they were really miserable in their lives. They really hated their job. They were, putting themselves on some ridiculous diet. They were, in an unfulfilled marriage. They just felt overwhelmed with parenting, but the way they'd been programmed to deal with it was, I've got my diet licked because I'm doing some ridiculous diet, and I'm drinking my green juice, therefore I'm nourishing my body, and I'm doing yoga, therefore I'm, it's all groovy. And I realised that I'm actually quite a Puritan, and that it's not enough. That actually, if we are committed to a consciously healthy lifestyle, it's all encompassing. Now, saying that, it doesn't mean that there's any form of failure, and it's completely down to personal choice. I guess my issue is when it comes down to people not being happy, and they say, well, I do everything, I eat paleo. Mm-hmm. And it's like, well, that's not actually enough, because until you are, the intensity to which you commit yourself to your paleo diet or your yoga practice or your juicing, if you were able to spread that out a little bit and look with awareness at the rest of your life and commit some of that consciousness to the different areas of your life, then you're going to start to see real change. So it's certainly not about doing everything perfectly, because we don't believe that that's even possible. And it's not that I'm saying that people aren't good enough in what they're doing, because we all have to take baby steps. However, unless we are prepared to look at everything, then that's not fully being in health.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I saw a really nice post on Instagram the other day by the Paleo mom, and it said paleo is not a diet, it's a lifestyle. Yeah. And I remember when I first got into health, and it was to get rid of symptoms, and I've focused so heavily on the food that I was putting in my body and how I was moving my body, and I became quite myopic with it. Because I can do something 110% when I really set my mind to it, and it wasn't getting to the crux of what my condition was coming from. And so it got to the stage where I ticked all of the boxes nutritionally and exercise, and I was doing everything right, but my symptoms weren't shifting, and so that is when I had to start looking at my whole life. I had to start looking at the chemicals that I was using in my bathroom. I had to start looking at the relationships that I had, the relationship to myself, the emotions that I was feeling, the emotions that I was blocking. And it was only then, when I had the whole picture, that stuff really started to
Absolutely.
shift.
And I remember it was exactly the same for me, but both of us kind of getting to the point where we're like, oh God, don't make me look at that. Please don't make me look at the mess that is my marriage or my relationship to parenting or whatever it was. Oh my God, I'm going to have to look at that, aren't I? Oh, that's horrendous. And it's difficult. And I think where I'm getting to with this is, you know, I've always struggled with, you know, my weight. And so I've always kind of, you know, really struggled when I've gone to things like yoga classes and everyone's all sort of skinny, string bean kind of, you know, doing their yoga practice. Still do, you know, still get on and do it. But there's an element, this was talked about actually in a book called Yoga School Dropout. It's quite funny. But there's an element of, and it's the same with in the nutrition world, of there can be an element of superiority of this. Well, I do yoga, well, I juice, you know, and it's this kind of, I can't describe it, it's a superiority. Now again, I'm not criticising, because as a student of the Course in Miracles, you know, I totally see that this is just an ego's false projection, and it's hiding fear, it's hiding vulnerability, and that's okay, you know, like we're all allowed to have our vulnerability and we're allowed to have our fear. And the reason I'm mentioning it is because if you feel that there is somebody or there are people who have this whole, well, I do everything perfectly, actually they're still in a place of ego. Or if you resonate with being that person, and we can, oh my goodness, we can. We've both done the thing where we've looked in Tesco's and gone, well, that wouldn't be in my basket. And ultimately that comes from the ego and superiority. And when we start having the humility to look at everything in our life that's not working, and if we start to get really honest with ourselves, there'll be a lot, you know, a lot, not just our bowels not working or not liking our job, there'll be a lot. Then we start to be able to pull down the ego's false projections and actually start to rebuild from a place of humility.
Yeah. It's such a lifestyle choice, and it seeds into everything. But I think you know, I mean, we talk about this quite a lot in terms of when you get stuck into this kind of thing, it gets incredibly messy, because once you start unpicking a thread on one part of your life, the whole thing just starts to unravel. And I mean, we talk a lot about Maslow's Hierarchy of Needs. I really like that. So Google that if you want to check it out. And at the bottom, our bottom needs tend to be the food and the nutrition.
My bottom needs food.
Your bottom needs food, and my bottom needs food. And we need that in place before we can start to move up the pyramid.
Ladder,
the ladder, to become self-actualized, to be able to have deep connections. And so it's a complete lifestyle.
It really
shift.
is. It really is. And actually, it was interesting. I was talking to a client the other day who'd been doing a lot of research into breast cancer, and there was a doctor's work that she'd found where he had actually recognised that all breast cancers had. You know, I'm not going into what my belief is on this, but just this doctor believes that all breast cancers actually came from shock. Like he actually was able to do MRIs where he found sort of damage in the brain that correlated to when this cancer would have started, which is really fascinating. And it's something that we very much have a belief in, that yes, of course, there is a chemical aspect to breast cancer. We know that for sure. And there's a massive emotional component as well. And it's this, okay, well, I could clear out all my chemicals, I could clean up my diet, but until we look at that giant pool of emotional stuff, it's just not going to be enough.
And I think the other thing that's important to say is, I mean, we're both chuck ourselves in the deep end, right, let's go, all guns blazing, and that doesn't suit everybody. And it's not a journey with an end destination. And so if if you're resonating with this, the first step can be to start looking at the food that you're putting in your body and to start acknowledging that you have emotions that you struggle with, or that relationships aren't working. So just taking those baby steps. I mean, you don't have to do the jumping into the deep end.
No, I mean, I call it the spectrum of health. And if I look at the woman that I was, actually the broken girl that I was 10 years ago, I ate a lot of junk food. I was very overweight. I was really ill. I was on a lot of prescription medication. I was in so much fear. I was very, very controlling and just so much fear. And I look at the tiny little steps, and it was one baby step after the other. Because if someone had said to me that in 10 years' time you're going to be, very fastidious on your diet, there'll be no chemicals in your life whatsoever, you'll be extremely ethical about where you shop and what you eat and everything that you do, I'd have gone, no, I don't think so. And it was literally just step by baby step. It's just that actually, if you have got symptoms and if there are things in your life that you're not happy with, then it is worth just looking at the fact that there is many facets to
looking at it all.
Yeah, whole health to whole health. Yeah.
Mm.
So, if you like to hear more of our ramblings and you want more guidance on the baby steps,
yeah, definitely,
then subscribe here. Bye-bye for now.
Bye.